Hi, I'm Kevin Chang, 15-year construction veteran turned construction tech CEO. I started LinkedField. We are a remote construction staffing agency. Get in the comments and let us know what you think about our content. If you like a certain topic, make sure you let us know. We'd love to hear from you. The ABI just published their latest results, which is the November 23 report. The short version of this update is that most architects, they're still building less, and the value of their signed contracts are decreasing. Probably not a good sign for construction in the next year or so. The silver lining in all of this is the inquiries that the owners are making to these architectural firms has slightly increased in the last month. We should see a little bit more architectural contracts forthcoming. I'm going to dive a little bit deeper from this November index. The overall billing is still low, but the signal is basically a fourth consecutive month of decline. So we're definitely in a downward trend. Remember, this ABI is an indicator, a leading indicator of what we can forecast in that 9 to 12 months, right? So what does this mean? So we've actually been showing a negative number in the ABI for a while, but we largely avoided, I would say, a true recession, mainly because of a few reasons. We're currently not really in a recession, even though we feel like things are squeezing. But what is the reason why we mainly avoided this recession? It's because we've had two things: a large backlog of work that was added on top of from the COVID kind of era, right? A lot of work put on hold and added to the backlog. And number two, we had a lot of new project demand that continued to feed that backlog. Well, guess what? We lost one of those two. We lost the new demand, the new projects that are, the new project demand that was adding to this backlog. And we're now just running on the remaining backlog, right? So unless new project demand picks back up, we will start seeing dwindling down that remaining backlog, and we'll definitely feel a recession next year. If this is interesting to you, or if you like to keep a pulse on the industry, make sure you subscribe to our newsletter. The Dodge Momentum Index, DMI, just published their latest report, which is December 2023. The short version of this update is that a lot of projects are currently in the planning queue, and this will support construction spending, a lot of spending, well into the end of 2024. In addition, the value of these projects that are entering this planning stage have actually slightly increased since last month. So this is consistent with what we see year in, year out. In addition to that, there's a healthy planning pipeline of backlog. So that's going to carry us into the first 2 quarters, the first 6 months of 2024 of this year. So this report is showing that we should see this trend starting to go back up. But if you kind of draw a line across that trend where I have this green mark, you'll see that overall, we're still kind of on the upward trends if you kind of look back several years, right? So there's still a lot of construction activity. There are tons of projects that still need to be built. If you kind of compare just projects we have in the pipeline, it's been one of the highest in 5+ years. So there's still a lot of work out there. That explains why there's still a lot of labor shortage and a lot of demand for workers. But we need to be cautious about 2025. So, not this year, but next year, because the overall planning has dropped in the last couple years. Now, those are planning are leading indicators of what construction is supposed to become, right? We're kind of running on existing pipeline, existing backlog, but that's going to run out. It's a finite resource. We really need more projects entering planning, and we're not seeing that at a high level right now. So you couple that together with a labor shortage problem and high interest rates. Those are all very bad ingredients to sustain this good construction economy. This third index or third report that I usually talk about is generated by Associated Builders and Contractors, the construction spending report. So the short version of that is that we are finishing the last couple of months in this year with a little softening of the market, which is again to be expected due to the season and the winter months. But guess what? We posted a very, very good number, 18.1% over last year, 2022, in terms of the spending. So we spent way more money this year than last year. So that's also a good trend. And that's consistent with what we're seeing in terms of what's in the pipeline. So this screenshot here shows you kind of how it's been the last couple months, several years, right? And you can see I circled a place that's saying that we're in a very high activity. Still a lot of work to be done. But that growth has slowed down because less projects are entering planning stages. Now, this ABC report surveyed their contractors, the contractors across the U.S., and 24% of those contractors responded in the survey and said that their sales will decrease in the next 6 months. Now, that 24%, that's actually low. That means the majority, close to 75% of contractors across the country, is thinking the next 6 months is going to be good. It's going to be great. Okay, so business will be blooming in the first half of this year, 2024. And next issue of the newsletter, I will dive into the December indices and try to make some better predictions about what we're going to see in second half. And that's the backlog indicator and the confidence index. Stay tuned for those. Construction market forecast for the future. What is going to happen in 2024? And then what about the next year, 2025? What is going on? What I'm going to see in the next 6 months is that the pipeline and backlog is good. We have a lot of work that's currently in the pipeline that's going to fuel us for the rest of the year. We'll feel better coming off this holiday season. We're going to start seeing things turning up from that little low, from the seasonal kind of decrease we always see every year. And the backlog's strong. A lot of work's going to restart. I can't put a thumbs up on this one right now for the second half of this year, mainly because we are just not seeing the signs that things will continue to be good going into 2024. Like, there's certain signs I have to see for me to be confident and say things are going to be good. And what are those signs? Let me give you two of those examples. The new project demand has been dropping the last 4 months. So if there's no new projects, it's not going to continue to feed the pipeline and the backlog. And we're going to eventually run out of the backlog, which is a finite resource. So we really need to see that demand starting to pick up. In the next 6 months, we have to see that not staying still, definitely not decreasing, but we have to see demand kind of going up, which means the planning indices has to kind of start seeing an increase. Number two, we need to start seeing the market for building starts improving. So that is the interest rates. The interest rates hasn't gone up, which is okay, but we haven't seen it go down yet. So we really need to see that going down for the market to kind of see an environment that's conducive to more projects starting. Without those, second half is kind of on a downward trend. Okay, so what about next year? The second question I kind of wanted to answer is what is going on next year? Well, let me summarize in one sentence. The bubble is close to bursting in 2025. So I'm predicting our construction economy bubble is going to start bursting. Now, why is most people might actually even ask, I didn't think we were in a bubble yet. Well, we are, because we've been riding this huge bubble for the last 10 or so years. It's been growing. The economy is doing great. I have reports and charts that I show in the previous post of how the trend has been going up. There's way more work than there is a year, 2 years, 3 years ago, right? So we're riding that bubble. But that bubble is starting to get to a point. It's going to burst. And the main indices are showing that too. So all of the indices are pointing those things. Let me give you a few of these examples of why I'm seeing this bubble is going to start bursting, because these things are happening. So number one, architects are not picking up new jobs. So without that, something's going to break, because that's the start of it. Architects need to get busy for there to be construction projects. Less projects are overall entering the planning. So not only are there not less projects starting, there's less projects that are actually moving to the next step of entering the planning and permitting kind of design phase. Interest rates are still high, hasn't come down, and it's been there for a while. Number four, labor shortage is still getting worse. So really, if you look at all those kind of last 4 points I talked about, there's a lot of ingredients for that bubble to burst, So those don't help. Now, the only thing that's keeping us afloat really is the backlog. And we know that's not going to last long. Top infrastructure stories in 2023. So 2023, everybody felt the squeeze. Everybody thought, is the recession coming? If it's not coming, it's starting to come, because they start feeling projects put on hold and whatnot. So that is true. I believe as a whole, and from the contractors that I talk to across the nation, they definitely have that feeling that things are slowing down. Now, different regions and different market sizes all have different levels of how they're feeling that squeeze. But as a whole, I would say people are thinking the economy is slowing down, and some would even say it's decreased quite a bit, right? But the only sector that didn't report that decrease or squeeze is the infrastructure. And that's mainly credited to the current administration's Inflation Reduction Act, that they pumped a huge amount of the money into the economy. And basically that transforms itself into more projects in the infrastructure sector. So that sector really has, I would say, stopped the bleeding of the industry dropping. Without that, we would be in a worst case in 2023. But instead, we kind of maintained for a pretty steady decline, not a sharp decline of the market. So I thought I'd kind of share a summary in this link and let you guys know kind of what were the top kind of infrastructure projects that came to fruition from that investment, from that legislation that was passed, the Inflation Reduction Act, how the money trickled down to these projects. So check out this link if you're interested, but I really wanted to highlight that infrastructure was really the only sector that didn't take a beating in 2023. Everybody else, we kind of felt it. Let me know what you think. If I want to hear from the community members that are in infrastructure. Do you agree with what I said? Are you seeing something different than we're seeing? Maybe grass isn't greener on the other side. So let us know if you're in the infrastructure sector or working on infrastructure projects. Let us know if you're seeing the same thing in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. Job openings raised 10% to highest level since 2022. I had a hot take where I discussed infrastructure sector of construction being the only sector that did well in 2023. All the other sectors, non-residential, commercial, those kind of sectors, didn't do too hot, right, in 2023. But I wanted to highlight kind of this, what it meant. Even with most of the industry not doing too well and only infrastructure doing well, job openings still increased this year, right? And job increased as much as 10% from last month. So if most industries are not doing well and only infrastructure is doing well, why are we still seeing a huge uptick or a high demand for workers if we're saying that there's not that much projects out there? Isn't this a weird question? Let me know in the comments what you think this is so. Why are we still seeing so many jobs that need to be filled when everyone's feeling the squeeze and everyone's saying jobs are slowing down? Let me know what you guys think. I talked about top 8 reasons why people left their jobs. Now that was not construction specific. That was kind of just all jobs in general. But so this issue, I would like to ask that same question to the construction audience through a survey we create. So please click the link below and answer the survey based on your experience, and we'll absolutely publish this result in a future newsletter and share with you all. We really want to dive into the reasons why you would consider leaving a construction job. Maybe it's your current job or maybe a job you left before. What are your reasons? So the survey is going to ask you to identify if you are a blue-collar worker or a white-collar worker. That's very important because I think the reasons why you would leave either one is very different. So we're going to make that distinction. And then there's going to be this list, and I just listed 10 from the people, a small pool that I surveyed of their reasons. But I'm going to leave a section in there for you to maybe put in a custom reason why you left. But here's a quick kind of summary of what the small survey pool size of people that responded of the people that responded, what they say. To be honest, I was a little surprised at what ranked top for reason why people left. So the top 3, first one is the top reason why my pool of survey respondents said is they left because there were conflicts with colleagues. It was a toxic working environment and lack of flexibility. Now, long hours, being burnt out, or maybe just general relocation because they have to move to another state or something were also the reasons. But, there's a list of them, so the survey will give you the opportunity to pick the ones that are more relevant to you. So please participate in the survey and be on the lookout for the results that I'll post out. I would like to highlight a particular job opportunity through our LinkedField job board, and this is the document collection position. And it's basically looking for people that's going to help us collect project documents for our customers. And these documents could be submittals, change order pricings, or labor rates, et cetera, right? A little specific details about who we're looking for our customers. We're looking for someone who is interested in working remotely to help construction project teams build better and make less mistakes. And they do this by pre-collecting all of the documents that these project teams would need to do their job. Someone that we're looking for to fill this role should have minimum 3+ years, more the merrier, of experience managing construction projects and dealing with the dozens of subcontractors and other project stakeholders. They should have a strong working knowledge of document management, the workflows, and the various processes in construction. And most importantly, you need to have the ability to work during normal business hours to do tasks like contact subcontractors or other stakeholders, to collect and follow up on required documents. If this sounds interesting to you and working remotely is something you're looking for, then go check out our website and our job board and go ahead and apply. And good luck. What is 4D? It's 4D, four-dimensional construction. It is basically the next step from 3D. Now, we all know, if you didn't know, 3D is the physical axis, XYZ, right? So in the world of BIM, this is what we're talking about, building information modeling. We've drawn the model in 3D, XYZ. So it's a 3D model of a building that we're building, for example, right? And we've been building in 2D and 3D for the last 100 or so years, if you count 2D. Well, this 4D is time or schedule that we're adding to that 3D. So it's 4D now. So it's basically tying the model you're building, the actual building, the nuts and bolts, into a time schedule, for example, of when it needs to go in or when this material needs to be ready, start and finish, for example. So that's very interesting because this is 4D is supposed to bring value to the industry, and they're claiming these values. So I'll share a few of them that they're talking about with 4D, right? With 4D, you're able to plan activities for delivery so that there are no overlaps or gaps. You won't have materials not showing up or you're missing materials. You'll understand the logistics of how things come together because, if you can see it, you can visualize it, right? If you can see something, you can ask questions about it. And so this is for the first time you're able to actually see a building put together in front of you and helps prompt questions or conflicts that would come up that you normally would only see when it's actually physically put together. And at that point, we all know it's very costly to correct any mistakes. And there are always mistakes right now. So this helps you expose those mistakes a little bit earlier. And number 3, this is supposed to help you plan for access, safety, and most importantly, resource management. So now when you actually can see the type of work, you have a better grasp, in theory, of the requirements and the resources you need to build it. And you can plan your resources, specifically the manpower, the people, and also the planner, the managers that need to go in to plan that job. Let me know what you guys think. Do you feel like this is all hype and nothing substantial? Why hasn't this caught on yet? Is this really as good as it sounds? Or is this even possible at this point in time? Or are we still too early for mass adoption? And then last but not least, I actually got this question and I have the answer to this one. Is someone actually asked me this, what are the other 4Ds? Does it stop at 4D? And actually, no, it goes all the way to 8. There's 8Ds. So here's a little visual of what that is right now for our industry we're actually thinking about. Anyways, love to hear from you all in the comments. Why is it so hard to build a successful startup even when you have a great idea and product? The phrase, ideas cheap, execution's everything, is kind of a good way to summarize all this, but I like to dive in a little bit deeper with specific examples coming from me, that illustrates that is true. Execution is really everything, or devil's in the details. A few points that I've encountered or I would like to share is that it's so hard because it turns out 99.9% of startup founders are working on the wrong aspect of the business. Most of them spend a lot of time trying to think about all the ideas or how they want to do this and do that are months or even years out of what they need to do and spend time doing that. What I learned is that having an idea and a great solution is only 10% of what you need to build. But we spend 90% of the time there, right? The other 90% of what is required to be successful are actually unknown to you right now. You don't know what they are. And so most people and first-time founders, that's me included, I did this. I spent 90% of my time doing the wrong thing. That's why I'm part of that 99.9% of startup founders working on the wrong aspects. Now, I've gone through it. And we're lucky enough to still be alive and still doing this. So I'm still fine-tuning. I wouldn't say I'm still making no mistakes. I'm still making those mistakes, but I'm just making less of those mistakes. So let me kind of explain with a few examples from us a little bit more. Imagine you have a bad eyesight and you spend years developing an eye drop that will give you 20/20 vision overnight. Like that's an awesome invention, right? It solves a huge problem. Eyesight, everybody loves to see. There are millions of people with bad eyesight, and everyone wants to see better. So you'll be rich, right? That's what you think. That's a great idea. But what I've found is that idea is just one thing, because then from that idea, it makes sense right now to think, okay, that will work, but devil's in the details. To build some magic potion like that, you'll need to do a series of probably 100 things correct in the next 7 to 10 years to get through it. People generally know it. No, that's what they need to do. But they can't write on a list the things they need to do, let alone the next 3 things they need to do to make that happen. But they just know there's a lot of things. So they, instead of spending their time to try to go find those first 3 lists, they start thinking, oh, what I would do with this thing, how I would market it, who it would solve. I need to get so-and-so celebrity to use this, and it's going to help me spread. Like all of that, too far down the road, right? What you need, and you need to basically solve a few things. The very first thing that you need to figure out is you need to get people to put a mystery potion into their eyes, no matter what. Even if your solution works and your product works, okay? You got to deal with the unknown. And the unknown we found is even though we figured out and we spent a lot of time building that product and it works, getting people to actually try something new and take a risk with your solution is probably one of our biggest problem, and it's still our biggest problem today. So that mystery potion, you have it in hand. You give it to somebody, and this person has to take your word for it and put it in their eyes. You know how hard that is? Even though you tell them it works, because someone's still scared, right? And there's a case in point. LASIK, it's been around for years. But if you tell somebody, go and get zapped in their eyes, they're still very apprehensive. There's still a lot of people with bad eyesight that are not getting LASIK. Why is that? LASIK is a huge innovation. See? There's a lot of things that you are not really trying to figure out by just building a product, okay? So let's take a few things that kind of has to happen. How do you actually overcome that first challenge of getting someone comfortable to put things in their eye? This is what I'm talking about. You should be spending all your time figuring that out right now. This is what I would suggest, and this is what we're doing. How do we overcome that very first challenge? Imagine who your first 3 customers would be. How would you find them? And then to really figure out who your first 3 customers would be, you need to now imagine what your next 300 would be. That's still a small amount of people in relation. Will all of them be okay putting something in the eye? And then basically, eventually, you can figure out how you can get 3 million people to do it. The key there is like you found that there is 3 million customers that are potential users of your product, right? That's it. Stop there. Now that's your 10% of your time. Now spend 90% of the time figuring out who those first 3 would be. Super, super hard. You're probably one of them, okay? But you don't count. You need to get real customers, okay? But how do you get someone? Would you get your mom, dad? Maybe, right? They'll tell you the honest truth that they're not uncomfortable putting things in their eye. So that's kind of something you need to look into, who your first 3 people would be. For us, it was my old colleagues. It was my friends that still worked at the old company. And I told them, take a leap of faith. If something goes wrong, I'll be there to help you. I'm personal guarantee, like whatever it takes to get someone to use it. Get your first 3. It doesn't have to be pretty. It just has to be your first 3 customers. This is just one of many examples and challenges we have to overcome, and we're still overcoming some of them. These are type of topics and questions I want to dive into deeper a little bit more, and I have a little backlog of these kind of ideas we'd love to share. But if you like this content, please let me know in the comments, and also leave a comment and let me know if there's a specific challenge you're currently dealing with in your journey, your startup journey or your business journey, and I would love to be able to share any insights I have in it. So let me know and subscribe to our newsletter. Please subscribe.